লক্ষ জনম গেল এইবার আমায় দয়া করো মুধের মঙ্গল সদায় অন্বেষিবে দাসে না ভাব পার
Oh Gopinath, please remove the torment of worldly existence. I can no longer tolerate the pain of ignorance and the repeated succession of rebirth and death.
O Gopinath, indeed I am a servant of lust. Worldly desires are awakening in my heart, and thus the noose of fruitive work is beginning to tighten.
O Gopinath, when will I wake up and abandon afar this enemy of lust, and when will you manifest yourself in my heart? O Gopinath, I am your devotee, but having abandoned you, thus having forgotten my real treasure, I have worshipped this mundane world.
O Gopinath, you know everything. Now, having punished your servant, please give him mercy or sweet.
O Gopinath, is this your judgment, that seeing me averse to you, you abandon your servant and don't bestow even a particle of mercy upon him?
O Gopinath, I am certainly very foolish, and I have never known what is good for me. Therefore, such is my condition.
O Gopinath, you are indeed the wisest person. Please look for a way to bring about auspiciousness for this fool, and please do not consider this servant as an outsider. What are evil? প্রভু তব পদ যুগে মোর নিবেদন প্রভু তব পদ যুগে মোর নিবেদন
নাহি
মাগি দেহ সুখ বিদ্যা ধন নাহি মাগি স্বর্গ আর মোক্ষ নাহি न धनं न जनं न सुन्दरीं कवितां वा जगदीशकामये मम जन्मनि जन्मनीश्वरे भवतार भक्तिर अहैतुकी त्वयि. O Lord, I have no desires to accumulate wealth, followers, beautiful women, or salvation. My only prayer is for your causeless devotional service, birth after birth.
O Lord, this is my humble submission at your lotus feet. I do not ask from you a sensual pleasure, learning, wealth, or followers. I do not beg for residence on the celestial planets, nor do I wish liberation from this mundane existence, nor do I pray for the attainment of any mystic powers.
Whatever birth I obtain due to the results of my previous worldly activities, I pray that I may sing the glories of your holy name birth after birth.
This alone is my cherished hope, my aspiration, my prayer at your lotus feet. Let causeless and uninterrupted devotion awaken within my heart and flow toward you.
Let my love for your lotus feet, let me love your lotus feet as much as I now love sense gratification, transfer my affections from the objects of the senses to your lotus feet.
In danger or success, good fortune or disaster, let me remain equipoised. And let my affection for you increase day by day by the influence of the Holy Name.
Whether I live as a bird or a beast, in heaven or in hell, let the humble Bhakti Vinoda always cherish devotion to you in his heart of hearts.
Jai.
Best prayer.
Vishak and Tanu, you guys want to sing one together?
So you guys, let's pause on this. Understand this prayer for a second. This is really important. Most people, when they pray to God, they're having some kind of transaction. They want something. So he says, I don't want sensual pleasure, means I don't want stuff that makes me feel good. I don't want learning. I don't want wealth. I don't want followers. I don't even want to go to heaven. I don't pray for liberation to get out of this world. He doesn't pray for any mystic powers. And he doesn't even pray to be released from his karma. Whatever birth I may obtain due to the results of my activities, he doesn't ask for that either. Only let me be connected and sing the glories of your name, birth after birth. That's my only wish, that my devotion flows to you in any situation. This is the purest prayer in existence. Whether I live as a bird or a beast, maybe he'll become a bird, maybe he'll become an animal. Maybe he'll be in heaven, maybe he'll be in hell. He does not worry about that. Only let me have devotion.
I got a question.
This is the best prayer on earth and in the universe.
So, does that mean we don't have to go to school? We don't have to make any money?
Potentially. No, it means that what you do. Thank you, Maharaj, for the question. We talked about this before, you guys. You exist for a reason. You exist because Krishna wants you to exist. And that means you have some service to do in this lifetime. So you give yourself to what you need to do in service. Not for any result, not for anything else other than Krishna wants me to be alive and I am for him. And you give yourself with all your capacity and ability to what's in front of you. You take the association of devotees and you beg for a place at his feet.
Maharaj, do you have the analogy or the idea that people, so if you work for me, it's okay if I don't pay you, or something like that? No, I'd like you to pay me, or something like that. How'd it go again?
Is that a class you gave in Brazil or something?
It was here. It was at the Wasatch Valley. It was at the
What's the
Wasatch.
way of rendering 247 in Gita?
Yeah. Was it?
It's this verse in Bhagavad Gita. It says you should work, but you shouldn't be attached to the results. And you shouldn't expect the result, and you shouldn't give up working. So you can work, but you don't get paid. You can't complain that you don't get paid, and you can't quit. This is the points of the slide.
How do you roll?
Can Vishak and Tanu sing Kirtan?
Can they? Do you guys
They
think?
look so eager. They're
Vishak is ready to go, actually.
They're bursting to sing.
Come on, Tanu, you have a great.
Yeah. Okay, they're doing.
Oye Vaishnava Thakura Karuna Kori
Oye Vaishnava Thakura
Shaya my Lord, O Vaishnava, ocean of grace, kindly be gracious to this servitor. Bestow the shade of your holy feet. Purify me. I clasp your holy feet, holy lotus feet. Subjugate the 6 urges. Rectify the 6 Rectify the 6 defects. Bestow the 6 good qualities upon the servitor. Please grant me the 6 kinds of saintly association. I sit at your feet, aspiring for that association.
On my own, I have no strength to chant the holy name in congregation. Kindly be pleased to bestow a drop of faith in my heart, giving me the treasure of Lord Krishna's name.
Krishna is yours. You can give him. You have the power to do so. I, who am bereft, calling Krishna, Krishna, am running desperately behind you.
Can we hear some Harinam Sankirtan from Jalameja? Harinam? Parve? Kirtan Mahamantra.
You can lead with.
Is it going to help?
On the spot. Spotlight on it.
You want to sing just a little?
Let's sing with Dad. Sing with Dad. Yeah, go sing with Dad.
You can play in Mridanga too if you want.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Gaur Premanande Hari Bol. Jai Saparikar Shri Shri Guru Gaur Chandra Ji ki jai. Jai Naam Sankirtan ki jai. Shubha Bhakti Kamal Tyagi Maharaj ki jai. Shishila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Jai Sannyasigan Bhakti Vrinda ki jai. Samaveta Bhakti Vrinda ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Bol. Should we talk about girls? Why are you alive?
Because Krishna wanted me to be alive.
Alright. And what are you gonna do?
Worship the Lord.
That's it in a nutshell.
I was out in the park yesterday and I met some groups of teenagers from this gospel church.
Uh-huh.
They were sharp. They were like, they were bold, they were giving out their flyers, they were explaining everything. They were like, doing a very nice job.
Wow, cool.
Yeah, I was thinking if our children could be sharp like that, they would be very impressive.
Yeah, they're fairly dull.
Well, I mean, like, they were quoting the Bible, like, they knew the quotes, they were, like, analytically, like, countering points. They were, like, trained.
In discussion?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
They were well trained.
Did you get like an age-ish, or like maybe older teenager, or were they like?
One of them, I didn't get their ages. I would guess the first couple that I met were maybe 14, and the other ones were maybe 17, something like that.
Oh,
That's
wow.
good. That's really good.
Yeah, very good.
Which church?
It's just right by Liberty Park. Gospel Grace, it's called.
I believe it's on 7.
Oh, that
It's
one right there on
7.
7.
Yeah.
Do you know what denomination they're?
I could give you their flyer. They gave me their. They didn't want me to go without their flyer. You know? I looked at their website. I mean, it has the website. I looked at it. It's like evangelical type, it even says, like, on the website, it's like a church that, like, spreads to more churches, that does, like, strategic multiplication and that kind of thing. It looked like
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Oh, that's interesting. I had the guy who drove me back to the airport from when we were at the golf thing in Dallas. He was one of those guys.
Uh-huh.
They were all about talking about how you can multiply the preaching, utilizing different churches and pulling in other denominations, even if they weren't exactly right. And it's kind of interesting. He was super fired up about it. I was just asking him questions just because it was like, wow.
So, like what you mentioned before about Adam and Eve, and what tree was it? No, they didn't. Does a living tree or something? They picked the fruit from the wrong tree, or you know what I'm saying?
Oh,
You just like amazed and like set back to how he knew this.
and that wasn't that guy. That
No,
was
someone
actually,
else. It was someone else. Yes, in the past.
that was actually a pastor I was listening to on the radio.
Okay.
But he was emphasizing that the fruit that Adam and Eve ate was the fruit of knowledge. And he was basically saying, like, this is not a knowledge path. It's the path of faith. And I was pretty blown away. This guy gave this whole analysis of this, which was basically Gyana Shunya Bhakti. You need to have absolute faith that is beyond your analytical reason. Understand that you're dealing with God who is infinite and your reason has no application. I was just like, wow. Because I listen to Catholic radio sometimes. And this guy wasn't a Catholic, but he was an evangelical preacher, and I felt like that was a really amazing realization to be preaching out there. So.
Talking about that radio guy?
Yeah. Dandavad Shraddha.
I've ridden in the car with Sudarshan before.
I just need a microphone.
Dandavad, G.
Doesn't need, he doesn't need a hearing aid either.
But then at the same time, the human being has certain things which he has been given by God. So the reason why a person has capacity to think rationally would mean that this instrument must be used in a search for God. At a certain stage maybe it becomes useless, but at least in the beginning it definitely shows direction.
The rational thought, yeah, can be, for sure. Also, might not be, depending on the person. I mean, I'm definitely more in the analytical, personally, like my own samskars, more than analytical, scientific type of approach. But it's a great gift from our gurus to be told that has its boundary, has its endpoint, and that you're dealing with the adoksaja substance, and ultimately you have to come to if all your rationale thinking leads you to a point of sharanagati where you abandon that, then it's good. I think because, we read the books of Srila Sridhar Maharaj, who's probably one of the most brilliant people to have ever been born on this planet, right?
Galaxy.
And that's his conclusion.
So what would be the right way of dealing with people of different faith?
What do you mean?
Like, if the devotee meets someone who represents any different religion, what would be the right way how to associate with them so their faith would not be disturbed, but at the same time it can be uplifted to something more finer? How to do that?
I feel a little shy. Maharaj, please just jump in and correct and add to whatever I'm saying. I think what you said is right. The way Srila Sridhar Maharaj and Gurudev interact with people is first to try to understand where they're at. You have to understand what is the depth. Try to get some type of gauge of what is the depth of that person's faith and the broadness of their conception. Many people have a very shallow faith and a very superficial conception. And if that's the case, then their faith is very weak. And you have to be very careful. If their faith is based on some type of externality, that you don't want to just crush it, right? You want to just enhance them and support them anywhere in their path. And to be mindful that, we're simply being utilized by the Lord, potentially in that situation, to bring them closer to Him, right? And we have some connection to Srila Gurudev, maybe, by His grace really, that we have that connection. And that connection may be extended to those that we interact with, and it's not something that we necessarily need to say some magic word where they're like, he made me a devotee, where you're like, abracadabra. But that just the interaction itself, because of who we're connected with, may have some lasting resonance within their heart. That's sort of my like initial thing is just try to understand where they're at and then try to give something good to that. And not necessarily be so like, you know, hung up on the idea of like a conversion or anything like that. It's much more about the spectrum of the path of Buddha Yoga and trying to help them along that path, and whatever interaction that's positive is positive. And by the grace of Guru, some connection or some mercy can come to them through our line that they may have zero desire for and have no capacity to even imagine, but that resonance can come to them, you know, if Krishna desires. So, and if someone has a broader conception and a broader faith, then you can start to bring some conception of Vaishnavism to them. You know, this idea of absolute dedication, you know, of complete and total surrendering and offering of oneself to the Lord without any remuneration. I mean, that's ultimately the point of all conversation, is to try and bring someone there. But you have to see where they're at and see if they can hear that and handle that. I made a big mistake one time when I was just moved here to Salt Lake City, and there was a Mormon girl just about to go on her mission, and in kind of a very cutting and callous way, I just really. Huh? Is this?
Are you live streaming this?
Oh. Okay.
It's good. It's amazing.
Well, I mean, anyways, just in a very cutting way, I undermined sort of their cosmology and sort of way of viewing reality, and almost in an offhand way that I wasn't even aware of. And this girl started crying, and she was like literally about to go on her mission, and she had this like, oh my God, you know, what I believe is like, just doesn't even make any sense. And I just felt like, wow, that is just like, you're such an a-hole, basically, about myself. Because like, what is the point of doing that, right? There's no point. So it's just to be careful, understand where someone's at, and to just help them and encourage them along that path. Because ultimately, all these ideas of what we believe and what the cosmology is and all that, it doesn't matter. Is dedicating substance being fostered in the heart toward the Supreme Absolute? If that's occurring, then, you know, whether or not your view of like the afterlife or heaven and hell or any of that makes any sense, who cares? So, the main thing is to be a helpful person toward dedication.
There is one of the offenses of the holy name is not giving it to faithless. How can it be understood? Giving a holy name to a faithless, talking about the holy name, or presenting some conceptions which are preaching about the holy name. So where is this border until which you can share and what do you have to say?
I mean, you know, from my understanding, and please add Maharaj, the idea is to not is to take a merciful and beneficial interaction toward anyone that you meet, and to present them with an opportunity to commit offense is not a nice thing to do. So if someone has no faith and someone has a degrading or denigrating attitude toward faithful people, then for their own good, it's good to not give them the name of Krishna, and to give them that opportunity of committing that offense. It's maybe you want to take an approach where you're finding some shred of goodness within that and growing that first, where they can build some foundation for spiritual life. And I think the classic example is the Mrigrari, the hunter, and the interaction with Narada Muni. When Narada Muni comes across this hunter, and he's shooting animals, and not shooting them in the heart, but shooting them so that they're wounded and they take a long time to die. And that was his method of of killing them. And Narada Muni's advice to him was not like, this very high thing like, hey, you need to dedicate yourself completely to the absolute. His advice was very starting advice. Kill them quickly. Right? Just like some progression from where you're at. Now, a foolish person can say, hey, it's okay to kill animals quickly because Narada Muni said. Right there, but that's not the idea. It's the person who you're talking to. Give them some progress. Give them some ability to move forward from where they're at. That's the merciful approach. And so Narada Muni in his mercy is saying, hey, kill them quickly. And then through the association of Narada Muni, very quickly he's moving beyond all these stages. But he's starting from this foundational point and then having some progressive experience, some baseline of the path of Buddha Yoga, which ultimately leads to bhakti. So, we're living in the infinite, and any move forward, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, is a move forward. It's never lost. Any progression along this path is never lost. So, then what is a merciful thing to do? Give some progression. What do you all? What do you think, Prabhu?
I think this is a great advice. But then another question appears.
Hi, how do you all?
Because one step at a time. But how to measure the steps and how to understand what would be the. I guess it comes with experience.
Yeah. And also some authentic prayer. I mean, Srila Guru Maharaj in Sri Guru and His Grace, he says, he gave the advice, Mahaprabhu said, you all need to become guru. And I was like, oh, me, I can't become a guru, that's impossible, right? That's the natural reaction of someone, because we understand our own position. But that we have to understand that we are not guru, right? What does Krishna say in Bhagavad Gita? Acharyam mam vijanayan. Actually, we may be utilized by him to bring the soul closer to him, right? So in this instance of interacting with a soul, we're not necessarily using our own intellect to try to say some kind of amazing thing that's going to pop off in their head. We have to be humble and understand that we are being utilized by the larger force, right? So our focus and concentration should be on our submission in the course of that interaction, rather than us trying to intellectually. And we can use our intellect, but it's not going to be our own force that causes that person's soul to change. We're being utilized by our gurus. We're being utilized by the greater infinite. So it's not necessarily so much that I need to be so precise in my diagnosis. Maybe I will be, maybe I won't be, but the prayer that we should have when we're interacting with someone is, Mahaprabhu, let me say what you wish me to say, right? We're not necessarily going to be the one that's going to be that's not coming from us. We may be utilized, and we have to take that risk that, if it comes in front of us, then we will say, okay, my Lord, let me try to do some service. Not that we think, oh, I'm a guru now, but much more that, and we can see in the perfect example of Srila Govinda Maharaj, always he's saying, I'm being utilized. I have got something from my guru, and I may be giving it to you, but not. And this is the natural feeling of the devotee, and it's not an artificial thing. And because they have that feeling, then they have something. So, Hare Krishna. Anyways, but it's not necessary. Goswami Maharaj also gave very, very nice talk on this topic. That he said in his preaching life, they explored so many things in ISKCON. where they were going to college, university programs, and like they created a survey, a psychological survey, where they were trying to pick out of the class the students most likely to become devotees. Because, you know, at one time we were giving like these large sort of room full of people type of classes with yoga and other kinds of things here in Salt Lake City. And Goswami Maharaj, you know, Gurudev had given this directive, no, don't do that, to us. And so we were thinking like, but what, we're trying, you know, like there's rooms full of people, how come we shouldn't do that? It was like a question that we had. And Goswami Maharaj was like, you think that this is coming from you presenting some kind of like arrangement to people. He's like, I've already done this way more than you're ever going to do it. You know? And he's like, and that's not the thing. The thing is to be an authentic conduit for the mercy of the real Guru. And that is a much more substantial thing. And that may not come off in like some visible results where you have like, oh my gosh, look how many people we got. Or, you know, like how many people were there? Well, there was 40 people, or there was 400 people. There was this, like he's saying, it doesn't necessarily come off in that way. But there may be some resonance that is occurring within that person where they will become a devotee. You know, some sukriti has been extended. So we're not necessarily in control of the results. What we should focus on is trying to be a servant whenever that opportunity to interact with someone comes about. So, anyways, Maharaj, what is your... I feel a little hesitant
I'm
because...
very happy to hear, Prabhu. Happy to hear.
Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, big times.
The Sri Guru's Grace is such a wonderful book. If you play with people's psychologies, you can fill a room up in 10 seconds. We're not about that. This is just like trying to serve.
Is it in Sri
a
Guru's
refined
Grace where he's like
conception.
4 months, 4 years, for like eventually whatever that is gonna like dissipate?
Yeah,
It has to be something substantial
yeah.
in the end.
Srila Gurudev actually said that.
Oh, is it?
Srila Govinda Maharaj.
Yeah.
Said what? What was that?
He's saying like, you know, when we're talking about like kind of like dilution, so to speak, or like, you know, making things accessible, if they're latching on to something that's like more dilution, basically, he's saying like maybe it's 4 months or 4 years or 4 lifetimes, but like whatever that is gonna wash. It's not substantial. And you know, that the practice of spiritual life, you know, it has to connect with the substantial thing or it will go away. And he uses that like lifetimes thing too, which I thought was also kind of intense, where it's like, you know.
Like Gurudev was saying it with the idea of a superficial conception. He's like, at some point it has no root.
Right.
And he said it might take 10 hours or 10 days or 10 years or 10 lifetimes. But at some point that will wash. There's no substance to that. So we have to be sure to cultivate the substantive thing and not the formal thing. Hare Krishna. What's the substantive thing? I mean, the gift of Srila Guru Maharaj is Sharanagati. He says, without Sharanagati, our practice of bhakti will be nothing but a show. And that is like the most important thing to meditate upon. That what we're practicing here is Sharanagati. We're trying to surrender to Krishna. And so, the whole thing becomes oriented around what is the path to surrender. And the end of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Mame Kam Sharanam, just surrender to me. And then comes Mahaprabhu, Rupanuga Sampradaya, and then the understanding of what is Sharanagati and what is the practices of Sharanagati are the fundamental basis of Gaudiya Vaishnavism.
So happy.
And what are those?
I feel so happy. There's nothing more exciting to think about.
This discussion has been super helpful to me tonight, because after lunch, Maharaj, when you were telling us about those kids and everything, and I really was sitting there for a long time thinking about that, and what the difference was, because when we were new devoted, from the first day we had to go out and preach, and I didn't know any philosophy or anything, but then as you learned it, it was so easy. This is what we believe in, this is bringing people home, and now it's all day. It's not like that anymore. I'm like, what is, and then what your answer was so helpful, because what it is that's not we don't have that, we're not formulaic like that, but we're asking to be conduits to the infinite. We are asking now. We don't know what infinite means, but we are asking. That's the thing. We are representing Sharanagati, and by our practice, that's going to be helpful. By our own practice of, my Lord, what do you want me to say to this person? Gurudev, what do I do now? It's a different thing.
It's alive at every minute. Should be. Alive at every second. Never some blah, 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 blah.
Guru Maharaj oftentimes says that so many of the lectures that he spoke came from the honest sincerity of the questions that were being asked to him, where they drew from him actually coming down through him so many things he was even expressing. And and that's such a really profound thing when we're thinking that all these books that we're reading are actually just answers that are coming straight out of his lotus mouth and are very, very profound and actually systematic, what kind of realizations are coming out of his mouth. And to a much smaller extent, sometimes someone asks you a question and it's something you may not have thought about as an important question at all, so it's maybe just more of a sideline thing, but for them it's a highlight thing. And sometimes you're just going how can I answer this question in an adequate way where I feel like I'm serving my guru and helping this person? And sometimes the words, they come and you're going oh, okay, then this person's allowed to hear that. Not that we're not going to study or try to practice our own so that we're ignorant when we're talking to people, but sometimes it is something we just don't focus on, and for them is so important. And it happens, and then they're wow, that means so much to me, thank you, and you're going hey, actually, what did I say?
I think that anybody who's actually preached for some time has felt that feeling where something comes out of you and you're wow, this is actually pretty good. Where did this come from? You know what I mean? You actually can feel you're saying something that's not even from you. And that's how you have some inkling of oh, maybe I'm being utilized at this minute, at this moment. Maybe, who knows? But it's possible where you have this idea of oh, this is not even mine. This is not even, didn't even come from me.
And it's astonishing that everything which is coming in an inspired way is always the best thing. How magnanimous, how affectionate the Lord is. It's always the best thing.
Yeah.
Because He's always wanting to give so much, it seems.
I may have quoted Tyagi Maharaj a few times since the last time he was here. He said that, what was it? It was in the yoga center. You were like, it's like grace. It just rains, and it doesn't stop on one side of the street and go on the other. It just falls. And I was so happy thinking that there's not that's the whole idea of mercy over justice, right? This idea. It's not there's the only qualification is sincere hankering for that. Mm-hmm. Not that you'll ever become qualified enough for something. And I feel so excited by that idea that it just falls.
Can it also come through not only conversation, but through something else?
Yes. I was actually just reading an article in the last couple days. Srila Sridhar Maharaj was saying, he was talking about, this idea of matsarja, which means envy, and that is kind of one of the more fundamental reasons why we're stuck in the material world. Is we tend to look around us and think, oh, how come this person got that? Right? We have this tendency of it's really like a judgment almost, oh, that shouldn't be like this. Actually, more should come to me. Why is this other person getting that? And that could extend to spiritual life, and then Srila Sridhar Maharaj says, and someone may get his grace instantly. And we are not to think, oh, why this person has this grace and not to me. We're just dealing with the infinite. So in any way, His grace can come. And His grace is coming in many ways. The words of the Vaishnavas are grace, but the connection to the Vaishnava is His grace, and the service of the Vaishnava is His grace. And he may come to a particular locality, and that entire locality may be graced. Anything can happen in any way at any time. And was it Saraswati Thakur who was describing the temple itself is sort of like this Sukriti generator. That the flowers are in front and somehow this soul has come into this flower body. There's a rose bush on the side of this temple that is 100-something years old. And now those roses are going to the feet of Mahaprabhu somehow. So what is happening to this soul that is in this rose plant? Grace can come in many ways and many forms. And, that is the nature of reality. He is graceful. And Srila Guru Maharaj said that actually everything that is occurring is prasad. When we can see things properly, we can understand that His grace is coming all the time in all the environments, in all the environmental conditions. So, really the true view of the world is that we're surrounded by grace.
Naughty is laughing very naughty. If something bad happened, but I can say that.
I was fine outside.
Oh my God.
She's like covered in mud and paint.
She's covered in blue paint.
Every wave is favorable.
Every wave is favorable. Horrible.
I remember we were in Switzerland one time with Gurudev, and this lady came like in a really roundabout fashion, and she had some kind of dream, and she asked Gurudev about the dream, and she got like really into the dream, and she felt like the dream had led her to him, and she did really come out of nowhere on the street. I mean, we were staying at a hotel in Switzerland for like 2 days, and she just landed in front. Gurudev was sitting outside on the lawn, and there was like a very small group of people there, and this lady just arrives out of nowhere and said she had a dream that brought. And you know, Gurudev was like very hesitant to give like, oh yes, dream, you know, like that kind of mood, but he like told her like, sure, you know, like grace came to you in a dream. It doesn't just mean that you're having a like a mouth conversation or a physical interaction. Like transformation and grace can come in so many ways. I mean, that's what we're desperate for in the end, right? That like something can pierce into us, and like we can recognize, you know, what we're attempting to do. We can like try and wake up from this dream. So we're hoping like some grace can come. The grace to appreciate the grace in our lives.
Joy.
But I mean, she was really wild. It was a pretty full-on thing, and it came from a dream. And Gurudev actually gave her like little, you know, he was just like, okay, came in a dream. Like he gave her some blessing, touched her on the forehead. She was like crying by the end. She was so happy. It was pretty unusual.
One of the first Toshini that Vaishnava Maharaj made, Vaishnava Toshinis, it transcribed this talk by Srila Guru Maharaj, and he was saying that actually all of our practicing life is just that we may attract His grace. We might, but all rights are reserved on His side. But we might attract His grace.
And also you say that the fact that somehow or another the fact that you get a chance to practice spiritual life already is a great grace itself.
Of course. How can we feel? I mean, I'm someone who grew up as a devotee, and I can tell you right now what my conception, not that I have something now, but I know that the connection of Srila Gurudev has completely reoriented my entire trajectory. And this is someone who supposedly grew up in a Vaishnava family, and I have wonderful parents who brought me to Srila Gurudev. But the conception that I had of Krishna consciousness when I was 19, when I got initiated by Srila Gurudev, is categorically different than what I have now. And which means I didn't know enough to ask for that. Which means it is 100% outside of me. Which means what? It's grace. Causeless mercy. Completely causeless. Like it's really like how, then you can hear these songs that are written by the great Vaishnavas. Ki jane ki bole. Like through what knowledge or what strength have I somehow have I come to your shelter? Actually, it's not. I didn't even know, honestly, what I was even connecting to. But somehow it happened. right? And that's the case for many of us here. Like, how did I even happen to even be here? It is a truly inconceivable grace. And it feels more and more inconceivable like every day. Like it literally feels like the next day it feels like even more. You know, as you start to get a little bit of a semblance of an understanding of what you're connected to, it becomes more and more like impossible that you're even came to the shelter of such a great Mahajan.
You can listen to the same lectures of Gurudev where I was sitting in the room. Then you listen to the same lecture again and it's like hitting you like a tidal wave, you know, where it's just like, and you know, like the preciousness of like those, like, you know, discussions is it becomes like more precious instead of becoming like more dilute. It's becoming like, oh my gosh, that's what he was speaking about. That, oh, that's what he was, and then you're like, oh, and I'm still only probably, you know, like, you know, you're catching like, you know, a couple of things, and you're still feeling like, oh, this is what I was sitting there, you know, like how could I have been sitting there?
There's no other interaction with that substance, the substantive Vaishnava. Like, what can you say? What are you going to say? You're going to say, like, thanks? Right? There's absolutely no proper interaction. And even this is not enough, but you have to completely surrender to him. Like, that's it. Like, total, try to give yourself. Whatever you are, like, give that. Otherwise, like, there's never going to be like the debt being paid, so to speak. You know what I mean? You have like infinite mercy on one side and like this paltry sort of like squeaking like trying to give something back. But whatever that is, we have to give that. We have to hurl whatever that is toward his feet. You know, there's no way it's any kind of like, well, I'll do service for 5 years since you gave me initiation or something like. It's like there's absolutely no way that we can properly, you know, repay that. Only we can just ask, let me give myself life after life after life.
Ant serving prasad to elephant.
Yeah. Whatever we are, we have to throw toward the service of Guru. Mm-hmm.
Maharaj, do you want to share anything with us tonight?
Please, Maharaj.
No, I'm happy to listen.
Any thought that came to your mind?
No, just fortunate to be here. Hear the Vaishnavas express their feelings, extol the grace of Mahaprabhu, Gurudev.
It's so much opposite of the mundane thing. That is something that is so arduous, miserable. But here the debt is infinitely increasing, and it's giving infinite joy as it increases.
Like Maharaj was saying the other night, this idea of completely giving yourself the opportunity of totally spending whatever you have, you know, in that hour, or in that day, or in that minute. Like, I don't feel this way, but I felt inspired by Tyagir Maharaj's words about it. That, like, that's what we're embarking on. This, like, joyful life of sacrifice. Whatever I am, whatever I have, let me give to you on this day, every day. What a beautiful ideal. Real love. You know, Srila Guru Maharaj said, that's what you're like, that's the conclusion that you're reaching in the, you know, like when you examine the like spectrum of your possibilities. There's a part in, I believe it's one of the Centenary Anthology chapters, where Srila Guru Maharaj says, you have to decide in your life to be a lover of the infinite. And love means sacrifice. That out of all the possibilities and ideals within existence, I have decided that I'm going to be a lover of the infinite. And that means I'm going to sacrifice at every moment in every opportunity. Like, really beautiful, like, ideal of life. Love means sacrifice. And that those opportunities that come in life where, you know, you're being asked to sacrifice, that's your opportunity to love. You don't have to theorize about it. You know, it's coming toward you. The opportunity to burn and to transform and to be what's necessary for that service is coming. And that's the wonderful news. You know, it's coming. That
Nothing
service
is
opportunity.
outside of the whole.
Yes. Hare Krishna. Okay. Parker.
Parker, come into this room for
Over
what?
there. I was late because my back was really hurting.
And just look.
Do one of you guys want to sing Hare Hare Krishna?
Honestly, it's fun.
Can you get the lighter, maybe? I can
Hariharaya Nama Krishna Yadavaya Nama
Hariharaya Nama Krishna
Hariharaya Nama Krishna Yadavaya Nama
Hariharaya Nama Krishna Yadavaya
Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama Gopa
जय सबरदर्शी श्री गुरु गौरचंद्र जी की जय जय विष्णुपाद परमहंस श्री भक्ति सुंदर गोविंद देव गोस्वामी महाराज की जय ओम विष्णुपाद श्री भक्ति रक्षक श्री हरिदेव गोस्वामी महाराज की जय जय गुरु श्री भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी महाराज प्रभुपाद की जय जय भगवान श्री भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर प्रभुपाद की जय रूपानुग गुरु वर्ग की जय जय पंचतत्व प्रभु की जय हरिदास ठाकुर की जय जय नवदीप धाम की जय श्री चैतन्य सारस्वत मठ की जय सारस्वत मर्गन भक्त वृंद की जय समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय जय श्रीपाद भक्ति कमाल त्यागी महाराज की जय महाप्रसाद की जय गौ प्रेमानंदे हरि